All right, guys, hope you're doing well. So we've got another testimonial for you, and I'm really excited about this one. I've known Kyle now for a few years, known he's been on the program. We're in a few groups on Telegram and WhatsApp and whatnot. And recently, you might have realised on Dr. Wilson's Earth blog that he wrote a little piece about a guy called Kyle, how he's basically shot out of 4 lows after being there for a long time. Now, Kyle started getting hair tests back in 2008, so that's, over 12 years. And for the vast majority of that time, he's actually been in 4 lows, stuck in 4 lows. Every now and again, he'd pop out and pop back in again. Now, I guess a lot of people watching this will be thinking, wow, that's insane. Do you know what I mean? Like, does the program work? How can someone be in 4 lows for so long? But the main thing I want to get out in this video is how important it is to rest and to keep warm. From my own personal experience, and I think there's an element of luck there, when I went to Thailand in the warmth for a year, I made tremendous progress. And I think it was one of the key things that I had to do in order to heal myself. Because I was basically in Thailand for the first 6 months in the heat and basically doing nothing, resting for most of the time. It took me 6 months to really start shifting things, and that's in pristine conditions. And I know a few people on the program that are sort of stuck in various patterns, and I know that they live in sort of cold climates a lot of the time. So one of the issues with being a practitioner and teaching about the program is that sometimes it's difficult to talk about how important it is to stay warm and to rest, because sometimes people are just not in the position to do that. Do you know what I mean? So sort of promoting that quite heavily is a challenge for me, and I think a lot of other practitioners. But for some people, it is important, in my opinion, to seek out consistent warmth in the body and consistent rest. So Kyle, he'll talk about it more in the testimonial, but I know that he used to work a lot, quite a few hours every day, and assumed that the program would be powerful enough to sort of override all that exertion. And it was only when he went to Florida with his family in the warmth and completely switched off, which I don't think he had done properly for 10, 11, 12 years, and probably a lot of time before even doing the hair tests, did his body have the rest, the resources, the nutrition, that's not being used up in other areas of his life to actually shoot out of 4 lows finally. And I think he's finally come to the conclusion that, warmth and deep rest and relaxation is so incredibly important for healing. So, without further ado, that small introduction, I'm going to hand it over to Kyle, and he's going to talk about his journey, and hope it helps people. So over to you, Kyle.
Thanks, Lewis. Appreciate you having me. Always appreciated our relationship. You've been able to give me some insights and feedback here as I go through a lot of things on the program, so appreciate you.
Worries, man.
It started about a little over 20 years for me ago when I started coming down with issues. I'd start having different pains here or there, went to the doctor, got your regular pain medication prescription. Half a pill a day turned into 20 a day at my worst days. Probably consumed easily over 10,000 different painkillers, Xanaxes to go to sleep, marijuana to go to sleep, pills to lift me up, the whole 9 yards. So what led from pain, or what started at pain, began to just lead me down this road of addiction, trying to mask my symptoms and trying to run from them until I couldn't run anymore. I mean, when you have to add that many pills, my worst, it was 20 a day. And
think about the withdrawal symptoms off that. Sometimes they'll stay in your system for 2, 3, 4 days, and then after 4 days, all the symptoms come back 10 times worse. So This is another lesson in understanding how to heal which is more permanent than masking symptoms using these powerful drugs. Crazy.
Absolutely, yeah. And I was like the functioning addict, where if I had my pills, which I never skipped a day. Like oh, what if I don't have, like I had them every day off the street, prescription, however, I had plenty, and I had the finances to have plenty as well, unfortunately. But it finally got to a point where I couldn't get high anymore, and I couldn't mask the pain anymore. And it's like I got to face this demon that's just sitting in front of me. So that was probably, I mean, you know, I got to where you couldn't eat anything, all of the horrible symptoms that ultimately led me to nutritional balancing. Once I got to a point where I couldn't really.
So just to quickly jump in, it just started from pain, basically. You know.
Yeah, I had some pain when I was about 16 or 17 at work. You know, my lower back hurt.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Doctor gave me a prescription. The rest was history. You know.
And what were the symptoms that you start to experience as you tried to get off these drugs?
When I first tried, I tried multiple different ways. When I first tried, I went down the methadone route, where you can legally go get your dose every morning. And I think I started at like 50 or 60 milligrams. And this drug was even worse than what I was on, but it was legal and I could go down the street and get it, you know, so it made it feel pretty. So I did that and got up to like 60 or 70 milligrams, and immediately I was like, I have to get out of here. Like, I can't do this. So I immediately told the counselor that was there, I said, I need you to start dosing me down like 1 milligram every day. And so within 2 months, 60 days or so, I was able to get out of there. But when I finally got off of them, it was like I had the worst extreme flu case, but it didn't last for a few weeks or months. Like, it was like a year later, like I was still feeling the same symptoms, rolling in the bed, couldn't sleep.
How old are you at this point? You started at 16. Where are you now?
I'll be 37 in 3 days. So.
I mean, when you started tapering off the drugs, how old were you on them for?
I was in my early 20s when I finally had to stop. So this was about 13 to 14 years ago when I finally got away from the alcohol, the drugs, everything. You know, I keep rotating from thing to thing.
5 years then. Good 4, 5, 6 years. Cool.
Yeah. And then I would rotate. You know, I'd stop doing something and go to alcohol and whatever I could to mask the pain until I realized nothing worked.
Cool.
But yeah, like the laying in the bed, trying to go to sleep, the heart pounding, like the whole bed was shaking. My wife, Lexi, she used to feel the bed just sitting beside me. The bed was just shaking with my heartbeat. You could just feel the whole bed. Like it was just pounding so hard.
Wow.
I didn't think I was going to make it. I could never really picture a day of me not being on drugs. You know, you get so down that road. It's like, I can't even fathom not being on drugs, you know.
Wow. Yeah, I suppose I was never addicted to prescription drugs, but I can see how it can be a slippery slope for people. You know, I've seen people trying to get off benzos, and you know, it's quite shocking how, you know, doctors can prescribe these things knowing that they're not going to actually solve the root problem, and knowing full well that when this person tries to get off them, they're going to go through probably a more horrendous experience than when they actually started the drugs.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is just unbelievable, you know. And millions and millions of people are on these prescription medications too, which is just beyond insane. So, yeah. So you start tapering off, you started on the methadone. Take us through the next journey.
Yeah, I started tapering off on that. And then as I kept going down the road, I would find, like, every few months I would notice a slight difference to where I'm like, okay, you know, I think I'm going to be all right. But there's some deep-rooted symptoms that just stayed there. You know, I couldn't imagine the toxicity of my liver. You know, I was vaccinated as a kid. I ate very terribly growing up. So I knew I had all these poisons in me in addition to all the harm I've done with the drugs. So as I was hopeful that I got out of the worst point, like my symptoms were still so bad, like it affected my work. I couldn't rest really well. I couldn't even take the regular detox procedures. You know, you would see all these different, you know, try this parasite cleanse, try these powders, you know, the whole nine. And I couldn't really handle those. At first I could, but then it got to where none of those things I couldn't take anymore. It was just making things even worse. So I started to paint myself in this corner. My diet was like a few foods. I started cutting out meat thinking that would help. None of that helped. few things that did work for me was the liver flush. I did like one 10 years ago. Got a lot of relief from that, and I thought like all my symptoms almost went away instantly.
Oh
And I
wow.
forgot. Yeah, I forgot about it. So I went through like the next year. This was in 2009, 2010. That next year and a half, I started feeling amazing, and then those symptoms started slowly creeping back, and I didn't really put two and two together with the liver flush. And I'm like,
Wow.
oh God, what's going on again? Like I thought this was it, and then one thing led to another. I started going to a local nutritionist who had a PhD. You know, he used ARL labs just like Dr. Wilson. He
Okay.
would get the kit back, the whole booklet and all, but he wouldn't give me the booklet. Unfortunately, he's you don't want to really, don't pay attention to that. You're low in zinc, you're low in magnesium, you're low in everything. I was taking 60 to 70 supplements a day, different. I mean,
Was he
yeah,
a practitioner? Was he doing the program?
no, just strictly had a nutrition store full of supplements and whatever you were low in, he gives you
Yeah,
basically.
maybe quickly tell the audience what you was doing for work and how much you was working just before we get on to the hair analysis side of things.
Yeah, so back in 2006, I began doing insurance adjusting. Before we had kids, we'd travel all over the country, work different storms, hurricanes, things like that. So a lot of just long hours, just a rough lifestyle. You can't really eat well, take care of yourself, and rest on the road, in my opinion, unless you're super intentional. Once we had kids in 2000 and I guess 2013, 2014, we came home and said, okay, we're going to try to focus on just a few states. We're going to just drive. I would drive to work and I'd still come home. We were working 16-hour days. I was working 16-hour days. My wife, who does a lot of my accounting and paperwork, she was still having to work 6 to 8 hours a day, as well as taking care of kids.
Wow.
We were trying to hit some financial goals, and the work was great. Like it was a blessing, but I didn't know how to put a stop to it. Like when I do something, I go way hard. So we worked those hours for several years until here recently in February, we reached a place where we could step away from that job. Should have probably done it sooner, but we were only looking at numbers instead of like I didn't really understand the importance until I did it of how much stress my body was under, because it was so common for me to live a lifestyle of intense work. Like we had a system, me and her worked, we were cranking out 3 times the work most people were doing in our field. And
Well,
instead of celebrating that about ourselves, we should have been, hey, now I'm trying to go undo all the damage I've done. So
yeah, and this is really what I want to get across in this testimonial is how important it is to rest. You know, you can be doing all the program. You know, I've done it, been there. You've done it, been there. I know the people. You can do all the program, but if you work in 16 hours a day or even 8 hours a day with not many breaks, you're gonna
yeah,
struggle. You know, and
absolutely.
it's a testament to how messed up the bodies are these days. You know, and what some of these medical drugs can do to you.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest thing I want people to realise from this testimonial. All right, cool. So yeah, we're on to the hair analysis with a guy that wasn't following the program, who was doing his own sort of thing.
Yeah, he just had a replacement therapy type program, flood my body with minerals. I'm sure some stuff helped here and there, but overall, it just got to a point. It was almost like being addicted to something again. Because when I started coming off because I found the program, so right after, back in 2008, I gave my life to the Lord, and I asked him, I was like, I wanted to be healed, but I wanted to understand the whole process. I didn't want to just wake up and just be completely different, because I'd probably return to those same problems. I would just probably create the same thing again. So I asked him for, he gave me a vision of me being healthy with my family, leading, be an example to the world of our health for our family. And I've just always held on to that vision through all the horrible times. And when I found the program, it's like I finally found it. It's like I didn't have to go research. I didn't have to Google all my symptoms every single day again. I could just rest in the program. So as I kept going down that replacement therapy program, didn't work, found the program from Dr. Wilson, and I knew it was truth as soon as I saw it. Like I started reading articles and like, yes, this man understands exactly the things I need to do and what I've been through. And so I'd start immediately. At first, I was like, okay, I'm just going to switch over. So I start tapering off these other supplements. Hit a wall immediately. Okay, kind of scared me. Went back to this replacement therapy stuff. So I'm frustrated. I'm like, okay, I know this is what I need to be doing, but every time I go to add this supplement or add this procedure, I fall off the wagon. So 5 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that, I found the program, and it took me from that point to probably about a year ago to finally get on the whole program. And man, that was overwhelming for me, because I'm more like, when I find something, I'm going full force, and sometimes I cause a lot more damage just not letting up. You know how I am. So
Yeah.
I
Let's
finally
just go
got.
back. Let's just go back a little bit.
Sure.
When you hit this wall, what symptoms was you experiencing that way?
So at the time, I couldn't really digest very much, but I was still on all these other supplements. When I came off of them, I would feel worse. So I was having trouble sleeping. I was bedridden for 3 months. I couldn't hardly walk. Lost a ton of weight. Went from at my most, I was like 210. Went down to 130. Still going to work now. Like, that was like the only thing that kept my mind off of it almost. Somehow, I don't even know how I got through some of those days, but felt like I was going to fall over at any time, pass out. The anxiety and fear was through the roof. Like you literally feel like you're dying every day, and you can't think rationally at all. And
I think, just quickly, I think one of the things with the replacement therapy is it's better than using medical drugs, of course, but in another sense, it is like just pushing up minerals to manage symptoms. I think sometimes, you know what I mean? And the program doesn't do that. The program goes deeper, like a full layer deeper, where instead of looking at sort of surface level stuff, it looks at what's going on sort of in the engine, and
yeah,
sometimes the engine needs switching off. It might slow down, might have to slow down, and this is where sometimes it can feel like you've hit a wall, when in reality what we're doing is we're sort of unpicking all of the crap that's going off deep down inside of the body and stuff. So just wanted to sort of say that to people. It's quite easy in a sense to just give people replacement minerals, and you can kind of make people feel better. Some good quality B complex vitamins, a little bit of copper if you've got a low NAK with lincoming or whatever, that can make you feel pretty good straight away. But as soon as you start adding in things like saunas, stopping work, enemas, that's when we're really sort of, opening up the bonnet of the car and going deep and changing all the nuts and bolts. And sometimes that, I had the same issue when I started the program. I read it and realized, thought it was true straight away. And when I started the program, I mean, I lost like 2 stone. I used to wake up every morning. I used to have a little bit of energy before, but I used to wake up every morning and feel like I'd been hit by a steam train.
yeah,
It was the most horrendous experience ever. But I knew that my adrenal glands had been put to sleep.
yeah,
So, I'm sort of walking, through the valley of the shadow of death, metaphorically.
yeah.
And that's sort of what you got to do sometimes in the beginning, I think. So I just wanted to sort of jump in and say that, just so people don't get confused about why sometimes you can feel worse when you start the program. And it's because we get into the crux of the problem.
Well, do you think a lot of that was just I was on so many things, like my body's used to receiving all these crutches or whatever you want to call it, and all these
Maybe
other minerals, and then
it's
just
difficult
leaving?
to know exactly what was going on, probably without seeing your hair tests back then 12 years ago, because
Yeah,
you could have been a slow oxidizing, you could have gone into 4 lows, you could have been a fast oxidizer and then switched to slow oxidation, you could have been in 4 highs, and then you could have crash landed. So without really truly understanding, because the program, you might have been taking in a lot of nutrition from the supplements, but the program also provides a lot of nutrition through 3 times 9 cups a day of vegetables. Probably weren't that back then, but you do get a hell of a lot of nutrition. So without seeing the tests from back then, it's difficult to understand. But probably you might have been like a 4 highs pattern, and then the program will have dropped you from sort of 4 highs maybe to 4 lows. And that can feel that, you probably heard about it, we call that crash landing. That can literally feel like you've crash landed and you're like, what the hell is going on? But the reality is you was actually in 4 lows underneath, but the program had just pushed you into that. So, that's just a hypothetical theory.
Well, I found myself being guilty of just going too hard. Like when I found the program, I would just try to jump all the way in. And when I finally made it, I guess, comfortable for me to finally get the whole program, I had to cut pearmint up into 8 pieces and literally start with 1 sliver a day and then add 1 sliver every meal. And then I would use 2/8 of the pill. Finally, I got there. I don't know if it was just so much better quality of a chemical or, the mineral I was taking, what I was used to or something, or just the detox itself was so strong that I had to, because I was a very toxic guy. My wife, my kids, they jump right on the program. Might have a little loose stool here with some GB3 or something, but other than that, like, they take the full program immediately, where I had to, took me 5 years to kind of get onto it. So, I mean, I just wouldn't lose hope. And since I knew this was the program, I still wasn't searching for new things. Like, I still knew it was the thing to do. It was just, how can I, as toxic as I am, kind of migrate into the program slowly, which is hard for me because I'm like, put the gas down. Like, sauna, I want to do an hour starting off. I don't want to do 5 minutes a day, but that's
I think sometimes you get 2 problems with that way of thinking. You generally find 2 people. One person, they're so incredibly sensitive that they can't do it, and they've got to stop slowly. And then you've got another side of the coin, which I think I was the other side. I was sensitive, but not too bad. Is I would go and do the hour saunas. I would do 6 enemas a day. But if you do too much of the program, generally you'll find that you can have a too big of a detox reaction, whereby it's so incredibly massive that you end up having an unnecessarily traumatic experience as a thinking that more is better when actually it's like the torque on a car. Do you know what I mean? You've got to find that middle ground and just eat away at it slowly.
That's a great point.
Yeah,
I feel like a lot of times it would get me because I've made it so far, and then if I come up on a healing reaction, it's like I don't want to stop taking my supplements for too long because I feel like I'm losing ground when that's probably not really the truth. And now I've gotten to the point where it's like I want these to be as most comfortable as I can make them, so I'm willing to go down to 1 zinc or whatever the situation may be. I'm not trying to just maximize everything. I'm trying to just take it easy. So hopefully I can do better when the next one rises.
Sure. So you was basically doing this for 5 years.
Migrating to the program, yeah.
Migrating. And just for the audience, you was working a lot as well, right? 10 hours a day?
Unbelievably well. Way more than that.
16.
12 to 16. If I was working, I was working. I didn't do half days until the end of last year. I started slowing down quite a bit, and then February I stepped away completely.
So, to make an analogy, Kyle is basically driving around in this car at full speed, at the same time he's trying to be his own mechanic, so he's trying to fix the engine while the pedal is straight down to the floor, and the program can come across as an amazing thing that you think sometimes that you can keep the pedal to the metal, so to speak, and you're still going to make progress. And you do make some progress, there's no question about it. But really, it's only when you take the pedal off the metal and let the car come to a stop, and metaphorically put it in the garage. I mean, that's what we talk about with 4 lows. It's about going into the garage. It's going into the garage and having every nut and bolt changed. And really, that's what 4 lows is all about. And you cannot change them deep nuts and bolts. You know what I mean? The ones that are really causing the problems, the spanners in the engine, unless if you're driving around in it too hard. It's just impossible. So that's basically what Kyle's been doing for the past 5 years. And I suppose you can talk about, what happened after that.
Yeah, so once I finally got on the programs, taking all of my supplements, started adding I had the sauna a couple of years ago, and it was a little much for me in the condition I was in. And I probably could have done 5 to 10 minutes, but I was trying to do 20, 25. I was trying to increase too much, so then I just stopped. And then I started again, probably the end of last year. And I was doing 20 minutes a day, every single day. And that got to be a little bit too much. So now I do 2 on, 2 off. And it's enough to where I don't really feel like it would mess with my gut a lot, just because the light's just shining right on there. I've always had some issues with digestion and things like that. But I've gotten to a comfortable place now with the sauna to where I'm not afraid of it anymore. So I can do 20 and 25 minutes.
Did it make you not sleep early on if you did it? Did you have problems sleeping and stuff? Out of curiosity, what were the symptoms that made you not able to do it early on?
So it was really unique. So if I would do them near the evening, I would start getting dreams again, which I love because I hadn't dreamed in years. So that was nice. But it would just like dehydrate my insides. It would seem like, even if I wasn't sweating a lot, it was just causing maybe some good inflammation on the inside, something like that, just maybe a little too much. And so I would go from constipation to the other end of the spectrum to constipation. So I couldn't really, same thing if I go out in the sun back in the day. If I go out in the sun too long, constipated very fast. So if things weren't moving through very well, my detox was kind of backing up in my liver and things were just getting a little worse. But now that I'm on all the supplements, things just seem to be clicking on cylinders, no pun intended. But they seem to be doing a lot better, and I get through these little ups and downs a little quicker. And now I'm still drinking 3 to 4 quarts of water, especially when I'm doing my saunas. So that's helping a lot too.
Cool. Right. So second half, the next 5 years, how is it looking?
So after being in 4 lows, for the most part, 95% of the time in the last 12 to 13 years, 3 out of my last 4 tests have now been out of the 4 lows. And my last one, as you've seen, the new person pattern, steep hill pattern, a lot of anchors. So this is probably the best I've felt that I can remember as far as having energy and things like that. Eating more foods than ever. Like I hadn't been able to eat garlic and onions for 7 or 8 years. So now I'm eating them pretty much every day. So all these things are starting to come about. When I do have a symptom, I'm prepared mentally. Oh boy, here comes a rough few months, and then it's over in like a week, and I'm like, oh, okay, I ain't used to this. This is nice. So I'm hoping those shorten.
Yeah. Tell the audience what changed. What was the changing point?
I knew there was some.
I think you was in 4 lows for 10 years, and then all of a sudden, boom, you got out of it. What changed?
I knew deep down the importance was to step away from my job. Like I knew I needed to do that. I knew I needed to do more of the pulling down exercise. But when I never felt
stepped away from it. Did you quit it or just sort of like reduce your hours?
I just completely stepped away. Me and my wife had a couple small businesses.
How long ago?
February, late February, I believe.
So this February it's just gone.
Yeah, about 6 months ago.
June, July. Yeah, 6 months back.
Yeah, and I knew I needed to do it. It was hard for me. We had built something so great and it functioned so well, but then you have me and my wife over here practically destroying our bodies doing it. So once we did it, we said, hey, we need to get away somewhere. So we went to an island down in Florida called Sanibel Island, one of our favorite places to go. We normally go there about once every 3 or 4 years, but this time, we went to 2 different islands for about 6.5 weeks, and very leisure, didn't do too much. Rode some bicycles in the evenings type thing, walk on the beach like almost every day. So I'm touching the ground every day. I'm out in 90 to 100 degree weather. And man, something just started finally slowing me down. Just being outside, which I'm not really that exposed outside too much here where I live, and touching the ground every day. It's not that easy around here in a very tight-packed neighborhood that I'm ready to get out of. But that's when things really started to change for me, is getting outside, keeping my body hot. I was still doing the sauna. I took my sauna down to Florida, kept doing them, and then get back, and I just knew something was going to be different with the next hair test. And then as soon as I got the results, I'm like, yeah, I felt it. Like, I finally expected some major shifting.
Mm-hmm. And I think the real big change for you was just quitting your job 16 hours.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it is difficult sometimes to talk about this sort of stuff because we all need to work.
Exactly.
We all need to work. A lot of people don't have the ability to not work, but my advice to everyone is try and pray to God, because God will help. It's interesting that Kyle asked God to teach him how he actually, how his body works and how nutrition manifests itself, and God graced him 10 years ago, which I find quite funny.
Yeah, I mean, I figured if he could give me the playbook, I would be much more dangerous with that than just waking up one day. Hey, everything's gone. Now look at all the people I can help, the testimony I have, the hell I went through. Like it's going to be a great reward, I think, on the other side of that.
Yeah, 100%. I think sometimes the longer it takes for you to heal, the better teacher you become. Sometimes the more light you can shine onto the world, and doing something like this, is going to be really helpful and stuff. It took me a good 7-8 years before I started feeling sort of normal. But when I went to Thailand and just switched off, it took me a good. I think for you've been doing the program for 10 years, so you've been building a lot of foundation up, and then after 10 years you went to Florida, and within a week or two you stopped. Did you feel the shift pretty quick?
Well, I've been doing the program about 5 years, slowly into it. I was on the other stuff before.
Okay, so when you went to Florida, what was it? Literally a matter of a week or two when you started feeling the shift, or did it take a month or two?
I felt the more I touched the earth and the more I got outside, it was just a slow, gradual. And sometimes you don't notice things daily, but a week or two goes by and you're like, why am I feeling so good? I better just be a little patient, not get too used to this. Then a month goes by and you're like, okay.
Yeah,
but
cool. I think for me, when I was in Thailand, it was about 7 months.
Really? How hot was it there?
Probably about 34 degrees, 35 degrees every day. So
Is that Celsius?
Yeah, that's Celsius. I think you was talking about Fahrenheit. I'm not a Fahrenheit guy, but it's hot. It's hot.
I guess.
Yeah, I've just spent a week in Portugal, and it was 35, 36, 37, and it was hot. I mean, I had to sit in the shade for most of the week. But even going there, but what I'm trying to say is, you've done this for 5 years, and then after because you built a big foundation, a couple of weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, you start feeling the shift. I was doing a program a year and a half, so I was very early on. So when I went to Thailand, it took me about 6-7 months. Do you know what I mean, to really start seeing that shift? And then when I went to Portugal, and I work now, do YouTube, building websites, doing apps, speaking to clients. I've got a pretty busy day. Within about a day and a half, I shifted even in Portugal. Just that parasympathetic state, that just good feeling. Do you know what I mean? The feeling's a little bit like when you have a deep tissue massage, and you're just like really relaxed and stuff. And I personally think that this is our natural state. I think that God designed humans to live in the tropics. Personally, when you read the book of Genesis, and we fell from grace, one of the things God says is that he was going to scatter man around the earth. And I'm not being funny, but these Eskimos that live in the Arctic, we're not freaking designed to live there. And I don't think we're designed really to live in sort of the far northern, southern hemispheres. I think we epitomise balance. I think God created us. We epitomise balance. We don't walk on four legs on the floor. We don't fly in the air. We're in this middle ground. We've got feet on the earth and our head in the sky, metaphorically. And I think that we, as a result, are actually designed to live in the tropics area. So that's sort of not. I don't want everyone to think that they're going to have to pack their bags and go and live in the tropics, but just making sure that your house is warm. Having a lot of infrared heat lamps around the house is going to help too, just to create that ambient warmth, ambient atmosphere. Whenever you go outside, keep warm. But like you'll probably say as well, if anyone does have the opportunity to go away for a few months and go and live somewhere, whether it be Thailand, Florida, wherever, somewhere with decent heat, the healing will speed up dramatically. There's absolutely no question about it.
Indeed. And just to place more importance of health over a career, you know what I mean? Like, even if I had to go back to work at this point, it wouldn't be in that industry. Like, I've realized that now. Like, hey, it's great. It's not for me. It's not for most
Yeah,
people, to be honest, but, lifestyle, you just can't expect to have amazing health.
yeah, I agree. You look at the animals of the planet, you look at tribes on YouTube or whatever, they're sort of sat around for, 75% of the day. And, for 25% of the day, they'll do some exercise, or they'll go on a hunt, or they'll do whatever. But, I think that really our natural state is the same frequency as the environment around us, nature.
Absolutely.
If you start slowing down to nature's time scale, you're gonna fare much better. Just quickly, another interesting thing, I like listening to a lot of sort of near-death experiences, where people see the light and go into the tunnel and go and see their life review and stuff, and see God and see Jesus. And I must have listened to hundreds of these, these experiences where people go and visit the other side temporarily. And, when they're going through the life review, they always say it doesn't matter how much money you make, it doesn't matter how much you work, it doesn't matter how much wealth you've accumulated, it doesn't matter how many cars or houses you've got. The only thing that matters when you're going through that life review is every single tiny action or word that makes people feel better about themselves, that gives love. That's all that you see. And when people talk about they're going to get judged, these people say the only thing that they judged is themselves whenever they made someone feel less about themselves.
Hmm.
And I think it's really important to always try and have that in your mind, because life is really just about healing yourself, healing the planet, trying to get back to harmony, and spreading light, spreading love, and helping people. You
Yeah.
know,
What better could we do to help heal people? You know what I mean?
yeah, exactly.
Wow. So get out
So
of the rat race.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah. I mean, there is definite importance to work, but you've got to be wise with how you work and where you work and all that sort of stuff. And I think really you're not really truly going to get yourself into that position without finding the Lord, finding Jesus, finding God, and having that communication is paramount, I think. So yeah. So do you have any sort of closing remarks or anything? Anything you want to say to the audience? Any words of wisdom? A bit of advice? Maybe it's up to you. You can. Sometimes people like to tell people how they can get in touch if people want a little bit of help or whatever. That's totally up to you. But yeah, anything you want to say to people?
Yeah, I would say, especially to those who have went through, more of a darker path than others, and maybe ones that haven't been so dark, but things can get really bad. Like, there's been several months on the program where I was questioning it, but deep down, I still knew it was the truth, and I kept trucking down the path. So I would just say stick with it. Just call your practitioner if you're going through some very deep detoxing. Like, do all of the things that he says accelerates to get you through it. The foot reflexology, the pulling down exercise. That's probably been one of the biggest things that I think people don't do. I know it's a little out there in some people's mind, but I've felt the physical changes immediately when I do it. Like, a lot of times in my liver gallbladder area, if it's tight, blocked, or something like that, as soon as I start doing the pulling down exercise, maybe within 30 seconds to a minute into it, something releases, and instantly, emotionally, everything changes for me, like instantly. So I've felt the physical side of it, and I know the deeper meaning of really undoing your mind, viewing every thought, you know, just like the Bible says, take every thought captive. Like, you're not running from anything. Like, you're literally facing what's in front of you objectively, and you're learning how to undo your mind and come back, stop being hypnotized by everything even little things that you wouldn't think you'd be hypnotized. Like you start seeing things differently, start having answers easier. They come to you easier. So I would say don't sleep on that. And the liver flushing and the coffee enemas. The liver flushing's helped me a little bit more just because I had some issues deep rooted in my liver. I don't think everybody needs that many, but the coffee enemas, the sauna, everything with the program, the chiropractic care, like I do it all. I've devoted my life to this. Like I've been ill more than half of my life. I'm not going to spend the rest of my life, going down that road. So I'm very careful with what I do, and I hope it's inspiration to other people to keep chugging along when things get tough.
Cool, man. Yeah, good words. And yeah, the pulling down exercise was definitely a key factor for me in the beginning too. And one of the things that people need to realize is that the brain uses up a hell of a lot of nutrients. Over a third.
Really?
Over a third of nutrients goes to the brain. I think it's even more, to be honest. And when you're in that sympathetic dominance, that 4 lows, working 16 hours a day, the brain is basically just eating up nutrients. So you're doing the pulling down exercise. One of the key physical pros of doing that is to basically slow the mind down so it's not eating all of this nutrition, and then it can sort of push its nutrients around the body. A lot of people also don't realise that copper is a neurotoxin. It's also used by the body to keep the mind quite active. So the body will not release copper unless the mind is slowed down because it actually needs it. It's really important. So you'll actually find that if you do the pulling down exercise and slow down the mind, you'll start actually releasing copper from the brain. And a lot
I have a question about that. Let me ask you this, while we're touching on copper. Have you ever seen or felt, because sometimes I look at the copper detox symptoms and it fits me to the mold, but I've never had that copper dump. You know what I mean? So can it still be there and just coming out in different areas?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Copper tends to be one where people can get copper toxicity symptoms, copper detox symptoms, and it's coming out of the urine, it's coming out of the skin. A lot of people get rashes, can come out of the feces. But also, if you dump in the amigos, it can be quite similar feelings to copper detox, copper dumping and stuff. If you get your hair test back and your copper level has only risen by maybe 1 mg%, for example, you can still have quite strong copper detoxification symptoms. One of the things that I add to my healing programs are urine tests from a website, ossumex.co.uk.
I bought a couple of those.
Yeah.
I saw you.
Yeah, sometimes when I'm going through something and, even as a practitioner, you still want that what's happening.
Absolutely.
Sometimes you can't wait. I mean, I live in England. Sometimes I can't wait a week or 2 weeks to get my hair test back. So I'll get one of them tests and it'll test for copper, cadmium, lead, mercury, and every time so far I've done the test and it's come up with, maybe copper or mercury. And when you read the symptoms associated with mercury or copper or whatever it comes up on the P test, they're exactly the same as what Dr. Wilson writes about. So I've
got to help mentally, right?
Yeah.
When you see that.
Yeah, there's been times in the middle of the night where I'm like can't sleep or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll go and do a P test and it's like bright red mercury, or it's like yellow colour, which is yellow and beige, which is like copper. And sometimes after I've done that, I'll just go straight to sleep because that anxiety, it's still there on a physical level, but on a mental level, I know that because it's so easy when you dump in for your mind to find some negative thought and just push it straight to the front, and then you stop thinking that the reason why you're going through this issue is because of this specific problem in your life or this specific person or this specific issue with your job, when in reality, you might be thinking a little bit negatively about a little thing, but the detox will just make that thing way worse. And in reality, it's the metals that are doing that, and then a couple of days later, you'll come back to normal, and that issue you thought it was, it's not that issue. And in reality, it was the mercury or copper or cadmium or whatever's coming out. So, I would definitely recommend anyone to get them tests. For anyone who needs Osumex, OSUMEX.com or .co.uk. They've got a European shop and a USA shop. I think they're like £5, $7. But I think they're definitely a great addition to the healing process. You know, it stops you from going crazy.
Yeah. As I've matured in the program, I've gotten to where I can step back and tell my wife, like, I'm sorry, I'm just going to let you know, I'm very angry right now. I think I'm just detoxing something from the liver. You know, she gets it now. She's like, oh, he's probably just angry. He's probably detoxing.
Yeah.
But there's some times where it overwhelms me, and my one thought leads to another one, and it's like 30 minutes later, how did I get here? Oh my God, I'm dying again. You know, it's like, so.
Yeah, I generally take myself away into a different room, or I'll go and sit in the van, or I'll go and sit in the shed. But it's so important to realise something's happening.
Yeah.
I've got a headache, I've got metallic taste. All of a sudden I don't care about work or my job or even my relationship. Sometimes you just feel like that because you're detoxing mercury, and just remove yourself from the situation. Go and do a P test. Oh, mercury. Okay, cool. I'll go and sit down and lie down and get myself through it. But now I live it. Quickly, when I came back from Thailand after a year living in Thailand, I started getting fungal infections, athlete's foot, because I'd come from this really hot climate into a cold climate again. And now I usually every day I'll go and meet a friend, and we'll go and sit in the sauna and chat. And I have like my afternoons. It's like being away on holiday, because it's just so important to get that. So if you do live in the UK, you've got to try and rearrange your life so you're sort of quite warm and sort of hot most of the time and relaxed and stuff. But if you do have the opportunity to go somewhere warm, you will feel the difference quite rapidly.
I'm convinced.
All right, cool. So that's it. We've done about 45 minutes. So I think that's everything. And if you want to ask Kyle a question or whatever, I'm sure you'll reply to people in the comments. So thanks for watching, guys. And see you on the next video. Bye-bye.